Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you had a very good GoFest Global wherever you're playing. I certainly got a lot of shinies that I needed or wanted. I think I got 20 the first day and then 31 the second day, and a lot of new shinies I was able to get as well. So it was certainly worth the money compared to in-person GoFest, which I went as well in London, and it was a lot more expensive. I think it was £27 for the first day and then £22 for each of the 2 days that I played as well, versus only around £13 or £14 in the UK for the global for 2 days. So it was definitely worth it. And I took a little bit of a break after playing because it was just a little bit difficult after staring at the phone for 2 days. But today, earlier, I went home and I looked at YouTube and I saw HomeSlice Henry's video featuring a Shundo Articuno, and I just recently got this Shundo Articuno that I purified, and I thought, let's just have a go at it, and actually it worked really well. And I also recently acquired a Shundo Ho-Oh, so I thought, let's just copy the team and see how that goes. And actually I was able to win 7 out of 10, and it was just way better than I expected, because obviously Articuno is such a spicy pick in the Master League, and the stack product of Articuno is a lot lower compared to all the other big guns that you see. So generally speaking, I just don't favor using Articuno, but give it a try. And the first match you saw got wrecked pretty hard, but it was gonna get better. I was just still trying to learn how to play with this team, and seeing a Rayquaza on the lead and seeing a Ho-Oh safe swap, I was trying to catch a Sacred Fire, but I think I swapped one turn too early, or my opponent just wasn't going to throw at 4 Incinerate. Either way, I wasn't able to catch, and now I just settled for CMB die, and I just lost it. So here, I'm just gonna let it go, because if it was gonna be a Brave Bird, then I can just take my Dialga out and farm it down. Probably have a Shield 1. I know it's gonna be a Brave Bird here, but given how strong Rayquaza is with the fast move damage, I thought I was gonna shield this. And surprisingly, my opponent actually came out with a Xerneas. And so I'm going to throw the Iron Head here, my opponent let it go. And here I'm just going to pretty much fully sacrifice my Dialga and take a shield, because I know that my Articuno will have a lot of play against the Rayquaza, and with this health remaining on the Xerneas, I was hoping that I was going to be able to Ice Shut it down. It was a Moonblast, so my opponent didn't want to debuff his Xerneas, which makes sense. And here I just know that I pretty much had this game in the back, because I can just shoot up this Moonblast here, and then I knew that my opponent was going to swap into Rayquaza right away, so I was going to throw this Icy Wind, debuff it immediately, and then from there on I had to just pretty much get to the Icy Wind, and my opponent actually threw the Breaking Swipe there, and here I pretty much went for an undercharge, because if my opponent had built up to a Dragon Ascent, I might have to just take it out and hope that I was going to outpace the Xerneas. But instead, I was hoping that if I had to, I can throw a Judgment for Xerneas, but it wasn't necessary. So we take the second game. Game number 3, we run into a Groudon lead, bad lead here, and we have 2 better answers at the back, so swap to Articuno, lure out Dialga, and there from the get-go, I pretty much thought that I was gonna fight for switch, so I will have to shoot twice. And my opponent here threw the Iron Head before the second debuff came through. I shielded it, and from that I immediately threw the Icy Wind as well. I don't think it made too much of a big difference, but it's just that I was hoping that I can survive a Fire Punch later on down the line, if I had to take one. And my opponent here actually threw another one, let me got an entire Ice Shot through. And then my opponent actually here very aggressively swapped to the Groudon. And actually, during the battle, I was thinking that I might save the Articuno and maybe store an Icy Wind or something like that, and just spare to my Ho-Oh. But just from that health range, it's very difficult to incinerate down a Groudon, and I'll have to take multiple Principal's Blades. So I was thinking that, okay, I'm just going to throw 2 Icy Winds, debuff this Groudon twice, and then come up with a Ho-Oh to incinerate, and undercharge it as well to give my Ho-Oh a little bit more farm. And because of debuff, the Principal's Blades didn't do that much. So here I have a lot of energy, and I knew that my opponent probably have a second dragon at the back, and it was a Palkia, and I actually just blindfolded the Secret Fire because I was thinking that my opponent's going to shield no matter what it is. And here I obviously made a very easy mistake here, letting my opponent catch a Brave Bird on the Dialga, and I know that from that point on, pretty much the game is over, because I had to catch a Draco Meteor on the Articuno, and I just really lost count of the energy, and I'm not very familiar with the Palkia's count either. So here I just thought that it was not going to get to the Draco Meteor that soon, but it did, so I got killed, and that was a good game. So lost 2 out of the first 3, not a good start, but from there on it got better. So Swampert lead, another spicy lead here. And I'm just not quite sure about Swampert lead, because Swampert just doesn't have the stack product to compete even with the type advantage. So here I was hoping to catch a Earthquake, but actually caught a Hydro Cannon, which was okay. And then my opponent came out with a Dialga, and I was just thinking at that point that my Ho-Oh hopefully will have a lot of play at the back, because the Swampert obviously checked the Dialga, and then the Dialga is a mirror match. So in that case, I was just hoping that whatever he has at the back is going to weak to Ho-Oh, and my opponent actually allowed me to get to the second Icy Wind, which is very nice, because it's now got it to very low, and I can just Incinerate down. And here I didn't know what to bring out, but I thought whatever he's going to throw a Draco, so I just had to shield here. I still think, oh, actually I didn't shield, so because it's double debuffed, I remember. And from there, I was just hoping to see his third Pokemon, but there is the Swampert coming back in. And from there, I was like, okay, I'm going to shield once, maybe force a shield to see how my opponent plays it. Because if he doesn't, then I can debuff whatever it is at the back with Incinerate. And that probably is going to be a big advantage. But my opponent actually shielded, so that gave me reason to believe that, okay, I'm just going to bring on my Dialga and hope that whatever he has at the back, I can deal with. And I had a lot of energy as well. So there's a Mamoswine here, and I'm going to throw the first Iron Head. And I think I should be able to outpace him to the charge move or the CMP type, which is exactly what happened to the highest power. So I'm going to throw the Iron Head here, take out the Mamoswine, and I think from the health range, the Swampert just doesn't have enough energy to deal with the Dialga, so that's GG there. And this 5th match, and this is a first set as well, had a Mewtwo on the lead, pretty good lead, and so got to stay in obviously. My opponent here does 5 Cycle Cuts and then throw immediately, so I knew that it's going to be a Side Strike. And I expect my opponent actually switch out afterwards, because normally when your opponent throw a charge move that's resisted, like Side Strike on a Dialga, pretty much it just want to wear you down. So I'm going to throw an Iron Head here, and then got to my Ho-Oh, and from that health range is very comfortable. I can pretty much just Sacred Fire down. My opponent here throw a charge move, I had to shoot, and it was an Iron Head, good bait, but it doesn't really matter because I'm going to throw a Brave Bird here. It's going to be enough to KO, and even if Mewtwo comes back out, I won't be able to tank one Side Strike anyway with or without a debuff. So pretty much just save some energy there, and my opponent had a Rayquaza at the back, and my Articuno just laughing right now. And because my opponent's going to get 5 Dragon Tail energy, so I'm actually in a little bit of trouble, but hopefully not too much trouble. I'm going to bring my Articuno over there, and my opponent actually switched right away to Mewtwo, and I was quite surprised by that, because if I was my opponent, I could probably just fake an Ancient Power or build up to a Dragon Ascent and try to go for it. But instead, now I have a lot of energy and I have a shield on the Articuno. I throw the Icy Wind right away. And here I was debating whether I should shield this or not. I'm not quite sure if my Articuno is going to outpace the Rayquaza. But here I pretty much had the Icy Wind store, so I threw it right away and hoping that my opponent would not be able to get to the Dragon Ascent if he had one, and my opponent didn't have enough energy, so we take that game. So end up the first set with a 3-2 record. Second set, we have a Dialga onto a Mamoswine. It is obviously a core breaker, depends on the moveset. When I used to run Mamoswine, I actually ran Stone Edge on the lead because a lot of Ho-Oh just didn't expect it. So here, I just threw my Iron Head. As soon as I got it, didn't really care about the timing of the fast move and just fully into the Let's Go. And my opponent actually running high horsepower. So I got taken down, and here I got a shield advantage, switched to my Ho-Oh, and here obviously going to shield, and fully expect that my opponent's going to switch out afterwards, and he ended up having a Mewtwo, and my opponent actually here let me go through an entire Incinerate for free. So I'm just going to let it go, because I know that one Sacred Fire plus another Incinerate should be enough to take down this Mewtwo, and my opponent didn't shoot, so that was pretty good. And here, was just waiting around the clock, know that my opponent's going to probably wait for 10 seconds fully, and bring out Togekits, so I'm obviously going to throw a Sacred Fire, and then switch to my Articuno, and this is just Articuno time, because we have a shield here, and we can pretty much shield up the Ancient Power, and Icy Wind this Togekits, and my opponent here switched to my Mamoswine, but then there is really no win call for my opponent, so he surrounded the match. Jumping into the next match, we have our Dialga leading onto a Zacian, and I know that it is going to cooperate my whole team, because normally Zacian at the lead will run Wild Charge and Close Combat, so I had to stay in here. This Dialga is my best answer to it, and I had to shoot a Close Combat first, and I was actually a little bit surprised by how quickly my opponent threw it, because then it's now debuffed and my opponent had to shoot a Iron Head. But that also tells me that my opponent fully intended to pretty much just take out my Dialga here, because he doesn't really care about debuffing himself too early. And I'm going to shoot up the second Close Combat, throw the Iron Head as well. And here I was trying to catch a Close Combat, but my opponent was throwing at irregular timing, so it was very difficult to do. And here my Dialga couldn't catch it, so I got taken out. And obviously, with a little bit, I was going to bring in my Ho-Oh. This is my best answer, and also the energy on Ho-Oh normally is quite useful towards the rest of the meta. My opponent brought out a Giratina, and from there I didn't see a win con, because Articuno is just not strong enough, even with the type effectiveness, to deal with Giratina here. I can't really take two Shadow Ball, particularly when the first one wasn't debuffed, and even it was debuffed for the second one, I was just too low to take the second one, and this Giratina was still in a very healthy range for Incinerate down. So from there I pretty much know that I will get no energy for whatever it is at the back, and I was expecting a Dialga, to be honest, because Zacian, Giratina and Dialga is pretty common. So I Incinerated this down and Sacred Fire this down, and then my opponent pretty much was just bringing Dialga, and I just knew that the game was over. So just not possible to win this game without my opponent misplaying, basically. Jumping into the third match of this set, we have a Dialga leading onto Ho-Oh. So I know that I'm going to switch out after my opponent building up to 4 Incinerates, and this time I was hoping that I was going to be able to catch this, and I was able to throw an Incinerate as well, so that was a pretty good lead for me overall, the situation. And then this Zekrom came out, which clearly just completely walled me, and so I just had to throw this Incinerate, and I knew that my opponent was just going to farm me down. But what I wasn't expecting was that my opponent shielded my first Incinerate, and because of the attack debuff, I was able to get the second one, so I'm going to throw this as well. And coming out with a shield advantage obviously was much more than I was expecting, so I will take this. And then I'm going to bring out my Dialga, and I don't know what my movesets, what's the moveset my opponent's running, so I'm going to just tank this. It's going to be an Outrage, really hurt. And then my opponent had a lot of energy as well. He's going to throw a second move. I'm going to shield this up, no matter what it is. It's a Fusion Bolt, so very good shield over there. And then this Ho-Oh came out, and I just threw this Ancient Power, and this is when having Ancient Power really helps instead of Hurricane, because you deal with all of the other flyers as well, as particularly Ho-Oh, which if you throw Icy Wind is not going to be enough. My opponent shielded this, and I knew that I was going to outpace him to the second charge move, so I'm going to throw this Ancient Power again, and hoping for a boost, but no boost, obviously. So now, dealing with this Zekrom, I'm not quite sure what to do, so I'm just going to throw this Ancient Power, hoping for a boost. But then there is a Cernier at the back, and I just remember that I should have a Iron Head stored. So I was going to throw this Icy Wind, winning CMP tie over this Zacian. Oh, sorry, Cernier, not Zacian. and my opponent actually threw the close combat, and I just knew that I had the game. If my opponent didn't throw it, I was gonna probably wait for another Geomancy to come through, and then switch to my Dialga to throw the Iron Head. But that was a good game there. On to the next match, we have our Dialga onto a Landorus. This thing also cooperates the entire team, but it's not as bad as the Station, because this Landorus obviously is rather frail, so the Dragon Breath is going to add up, and I'm going to throw the Iron Head as soon as I get it. Again, not really too concerned about the timing, because I know that this is a pretty much like a losing matchup in anything beyond the zero shield, so I'm just gonna let it go down. And then my opponent actually swapped to a Shadow Snorlax, very spicy, and here I didn't really know what to do, so I stayed in for a little bit, put up some energy there, and then swapped to my Ho-Oh. Didn't throw the Icy Wind because I don't think that was necessary, given how powerful Incinerate and Sacred Fire are going to be. My opponent either going to shoot or just going to let go. And here I've got the 100 energy. My opponent threw right beforehand, and I'm just going to take this and then throw this Incinerate, fully expecting that my opponent's going to let it go, but my opponent actually shielded, so my undercharge didn't work. And seeing this, I'm just going to throw the Brave Bird to take out my opponent. And my opponent actually came in with a Zarude, and I was very surprised to see that, because now I have a lot of energy on the Articuno. I can just throw it on the Zarude, and also because of that, I just knew that the opponent is not going to be able to get to 2 stone edges, so I was looking pretty good there, and my opponent saw that as well, so resigned the match. On to the last match of this set, we have a Dialga onto a Giratina, very good lead obviously, and my opponent safe swap to a Asian, and from there I just knew that I would have to throw this Iron Head right away and hopefully catch the either close combat or play rough onto my Ho-Oh, and I have to catch it right there, and the charge was going to come through, and actually it was going to be a play rough, and for whatever reason my opponent resigned the match from there. So not too shady. Record was 7 wins, 3 losses, way better than I expected, and I could just run 2 of my favorite Shundos, so very satisfying battles for me. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're running Master League still, leave a comment below, see what team you're using, give it a like, and I'll see you in the next video.